This is the exact strategy I used to get my first online music students, and it laid the foundation for what eventually became a six-figure drum coaching business. When I started, I didn't have a single ad running. I wasn't making any content. I didn't have a funnel. I didn't have a website, and I didn't have any kind of marketing system. Just a Facebook account, a laptop, and a little bit of hustle, and that's it. So if you're a musician and you want to start teaching online, but you're sitting there thinking, no one knows I exist, or I've tried, but I just can't seem to get students, this is for you. This strategy is what got me started, and it can absolutely get you started. And honestly, it works even better now in 2025. Let's talk about why. You'll hear people talk about growing your social media presence to get students, and yes, obviously having an audience is great, but what they don't tell you is that building a real social media presence takes time. Despite what these people might talk about, going viral in a month and all this stuff, it takes months, right? Like 6 to 12 months if you're doing it properly. If you've got 500 followers right now, you probably don't have time to sit around and hope that Instagram growth suddenly solves your student problem, right? You want to get students now, not a year from now. And yes, obviously having big social media presence helps, but it's a long game. And if you're in a spot where you want students soon, as in this month, you need a more direct route, which is why what I'm about to walk you through works so well. You don't need a big audience. You don't need fancy branding. You don't even need to film content. You just need conversations. That's it. If you can get into the right conversations with the right people, you can get students. Believe it or not, Facebook is still one of the best platforms for this, especially Facebook groups. I know people love to say that Facebook is dead, but it's obviously not true. It's still the biggest social media network in the world. And when it comes to teaching online, Facebook groups are often where your ideal students are already hanging out. The beauty of these groups is that they're concentrated, right? They're not just throwing content out to the world hoping that someone sees it. When you go there, you're basically walking into a room full of the exact type of person that you want to help with your teaching, and all you have to do is start talking to them. Now, before you do this, you want to get specific about who you're trying to help. This only works if you're clear on exactly who your target students are. The more specific you are, the easier all of this becomes. So for example, if you're a saxophonist and you post in a sax group saying, hey, I teach saxophone, right? Nobody cares. You're blending in with 100 other teachers. But if you say, I help intermediate saxophonists develop a more confident tone, right? Now you're speaking to a very specific group of people. Now for me, I'm a drummer, okay? And I knew I didn't want to teach total beginners. So when I set out to do this, I was primarily focused on intermediate and advanced players. This group, they were decent, but they felt like they were stuck in a bit of a plateau. That gave me a really specific audience, but also gave me specific problems to talk about. And that's important because the problems that beginners face, for instance, are going to be different for the problems that a more advanced musician are going to face. When you get clear on who you're helping, you're going to know exactly what kind of problems to talk about, what kind of posts to create for Facebook, and it's going to really help you resonate with your ideal students, with the exact people that you're trying to target and who you want to teach. If you want help with figuring this step out, right, exactly who you're targeting, I put together a free guide. There's a link down below. If you drop your email, I'll send it over to you. So once you know who you're targeting, right, now the next step is to basically find Facebook groups where these people are hanging out. So jump into the Facebook search bar and just start typing in the groups, for whatever your instrument is. If you're a violinist, obviously search violin, violinist. There will 100% be a bunch of groups, okay, for your instrument. Now, you want to join a handful of these, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, just to get started. And what you'll see is that some of them will have a little bit better engagement than others. You don't need to go crazy, right? You don't need to join a million groups, but we want to look for groups where actual conversations are happening and not necessarily just people promoting their stuff and disappearing. Ideally, you want a space where people are asking questions and kind of talking and sharing struggles and getting feedback. And that's where you can actually start helping people. The next step, once you're inside, obviously, these groups, is your whole job is to just be helpful. That's it. You're not selling anything. You're not pitching anything. You're just showing up. You're just being present there, right? And becoming someone that people associate with good advice. There are two main types of posts that really help do this and that work really well here. The first is like question posts, okay? You can post a really simple question, right? Where you just ask your target students a question like, what kind of problems are you struggling with? Or which areas of your playing have you found most difficult to improve? Or as an intermediate violinist, what do you find most difficult about X, right? And it's going to get a conversation going. It's going to kind of start some engagement and getting people to respond. The other type of post are just short articles, right? 100, 150 words, breaking down a simple tip or a simple idea or a solution to a common problem. Let's say you're a guitarist and there's a lot of debate out there about alternate picking, right? You've probably got a preference and a reason why you teach it a certain way. So do a little post about that, 100, 150 words, explaining your perspective, why it works, and who it's helped as well. It starts a conversation, right? But it also positions you as someone who knows what you're talking about. Now, I want to add something here that's really important. Learning how to deliver useful information in bite-sized, concise chunks is an extremely underrated skill, not just for teaching, but for marketing as well. If you can get someone to say, oh, that's a good point, or I've never thought about that like that in 150 words or less, you're developing a core teaching skill that also happens to make you way more effective at attracting students over time. So it's really worth practicing. Now, both of these types of posts will spark engagement, right? Hopefully from your ideal students. Like again, if you're asking a question targeting intermediate sax players, presumably the people responding are going to be mostly intermediate sax players, right? If I see a post on Facebook that's, as a beginner drummer, what do you find most difficult about X? I'm going to scroll right past because I'm not a beginner, okay? But a beginner might stop and engage with that post. The next step then is to engage like a human being, okay? So when people start replying to these posts, and they will, right? Especially if you're speaking to a real problem that they're having, your next job is to then just be present in the comments, right? Be part of the conversation. This is more important than people realize, right? It's not just about being polite. It's about showing up. And a lot of these groups are engagement driven. So the more kind of activity there are in the comments, the more the post will get pushed out to other members of the group. So every time you reply to a comment or ask a follow-up question or even just tag someone with a thoughtful response, that post is going to get pushed out to more people. Now, by getting into these comments, by asking questions, by prompting a bit of a deeper discussion, you're actually creating a kind of a ripple effect. Your post stays alive longer, right? More people are going to see it and more of your ideal students will start recognizing your name and you build a little bit of a micro brand. And again, all you're doing is just being a good person, right? You're just engaging, helping people, listening what they're struggling with, and offering some useful insight when you can. People start to associate your name with useful advice, with clarity, with someone who actually gets it. And that's a powerful place to be when someone in that group suddenly decides that they need help. The next step is then to move conversations with these people into DMs, right? Eventually, there'll be someone who clearly resonates with what you're saying, right? They'll comment and they'll be like, I totally struggle with this, right? They're obviously engaged, right? They're obviously dealing with a problem that you can help solve. Now, at that point, it makes sense to move the conversation to the DMs somewhere private. And here's why. A lot of people are comfortable sharing their thoughts or even frustrations in public, right? Especially in groups where there's kind of a sense of community. But when it comes to actually asking for help, it's a little bit more personal, right? And most people aren't necessarily going to be comfortable doing that publicly. But in a private conversation, it's a totally different ballgame, right? People are far more likely to open up, right? They'll tell you things they've tried. They'll tell you maybe what they're frustrated with or what's not working. And once you've built that trust, they'll be way more receptive to hearing about a possible solution. So you can just drop a quick reply and be like, hey, I sent you a DM about this to go a little deeper, right? Then that obviously prompts them to open up their inbox and check the DM from you. And you can say something like, hey, I saw your comment, you were talking about struggling with XYZ. How are you working on that at the moment, right? And this kind of thing, it's very relaxed, it's a very natural transition. And once you're in the DMs, that's where the real kind of opportunity to help and to ultimately enroll a student opens up. The next step then is to invite them for a free session, right? So once you've had a little back and forth in the DMs, usually it's going to be clear that they're kind of struggling with something that you can actually help them with. And that's the moment to offer some upfront value, right? You don't pitch them, right? You don't need to convince them about anything. You just say something like, hey, it sounds like there's a lot kind of going on here. If it helps, if I can help, I'd be happy to jump on a quick call and talk through it with you. A lot of time, people are going to be really, really receptive for this, right? There's no pressure, there's no commitment, right? It's just a free session, right? A chance to actually help them and give them a bit of a taste of what it would be like to work with you. And that's what leads into that first free session. And when someone says yes to a free session or a consultation, just keep it simple, right? You don't need a whole curriculum. You don't need a fancy kind of onboarding system. Just show up, get to know them, ask about their goals, their struggles, and then give them one or two really practical things that they can implement right away. And that's how you show your value. That's how you earn their trust. And at the end of the call, you can say something like, hey, if you want help working on this regularly and you want me to help you, I'd be happy to talk about what it would look like to work together. Then you can go into pricing, all that kind of stuff. I actually have a video about how to structure the free sessions right here, so you should go and check that out. This strategy still works. Honestly, it works better than it did when I started a few years back, because a lot of people have moved away from Facebook kind of thinking that it's outdated. But the truth is that there's still tens of thousands of people there looking for answers and looking for help, right? And these people are in these groups. They're asking questions. They're struggling with the same things that you can help them with as a teacher. And hardly anyone is doing what I've just outlined, right? There may be a few people here and there, but most importantly, you're showing up to these groups, you're offering value, and then you're moving the conversation somewhere private where you can discuss your own coaching. I've had clients do this and get their first students within 48 hours, no joke. This is how I got my first 15 to 20 students, and obviously I ended up getting a lot more. I did build a website, I did build a social media presence and all that kind of stuff, but this is where I started. Obviously, we can go deep on pricing models, program structure, lesson packages, but that's all for other videos on this channel. But right now, this is just about one thing, right? It's about getting started. So go join a few Facebook groups, start some conversations, post something helpful, get curious, follow up in the DMs, offer a free session, and that's it. If you want help with exactly how to structure those free sessions, check out this video next here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.